Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Fox with WESH 2 News and WESH.com, and this is another in our series of debates this primary season leading up to the election August 23rd, clearly developing the candidate field that will go into the November general election. Right now, we're covering District 38 and the state house race that covers part of Seminole County, including the cities of Altamont Springs, Fern Park, Castleberry, and the communities in and around Tuscaloosa. The candidates are Representative David Smith, Patrick Weingart, and Drake Wirtz. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this Republican primary in District 38. I want to thank Mr. Smith in particular for one reason and one reason only, and that is that we have encountered this election season a number of incumbents who don't want to debate. And so, Mr. Smith, thank you for joining us on that note. First, I'm going to give each of you 1 minute to tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're running, and why you think voters should vote for you. And we'll start with Mr. Smith.
Well, Greg, a pleasure to be with you. And as many of your viewers, certainly in Seminole County, know, I spent my career 30 years in the United States Marine Corps. I'm one of the few combat veterans serving in the legislature. But 4 years ago, after my tour in the Marine Corps ended, I got into politics. It's been my honor to serve the citizens of Seminole County in Central Florida up in Tallahassee. And for the last 4 years, I've been working shoulder to shoulder with Governor DeSantis to ensure that Florida is on the right track. We've passed a lot of major legislation that cracked down on illegal immigration. We've passed multiple pro-life bills, and I have sponsored, passed, and seen signed into law pro-gun legislation. I want to go back to Tallahassee because we still have unfinished work, in particular in areas with like property insurance and these roof fraud that's going on and a whole host of other things in education. And I think with my background, not only my military experience, but undergraduate and graduate degrees in business are one of the reasons why I sit on 2 appropriation committees, but there's still unfinished business. I think Governor DeSantis recognizes that, but I think that's another reason why he's endorsed my reelection, because there is some unfinished work. I need to go back to Tallahassee to wrap up.
All right, thank you very much. That was closer to a minute and a half, minute 45. Mr. Weingart, go ahead. I'll let you go a little longer.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Wesh, for putting this on. I also want to thank the other candidates for taking the time out of their day to participate in the debate. First, my name is Patrick Weingart. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Virginia, and I joined the Marine Corps Reserve and moved to Florida in 2008. In 2009, I started volunteering for deployment. Between 2010 and 11, I spent time in Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. When I came home from Afghanistan, I used my experience overseas to help train junior Marines to prepare them for combat deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq. And after getting out of the Marine Corps, I went back to school, graduated from the University of Central Florida with a Bachelor of Criminal Justice, or bachelor's degree in criminal justice. While I was in school, to support myself, I used my Marine Corps experience, which was driving trucks, to pay the bills and pay for school, because I only rated a portion of the GI Bill. I drove trucks locally and was involved in local logistics. And following that and my graduation, I looked at national logistics, and I was an over-the-road truck driver for a couple of years. While I was over the road, I looked for opportunities within the criminal justice realm, and finally was able to secure a job in child welfare. I served as a child protective investigator for 3 years. In that time, I also worked in the court system with families of children who had already been removed from their parents. So I have an understanding of the welfare system as well as working in the court system and the foster system. After that, I moved into adult probation, and that's where I'm at now. So currently I'm working with offenders on pretrial release and GPS monitoring. So,
all right, Mr. Weingart, we don't have a bell, but I'm going to have to go ding ding on that one. We're going to get back to more of your experience as we continue our discussion here, but we're going to move on.
My apologies, Greg.
That's okay. Mr. Wirtz, go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much for this opportunity and this platform. My name is Drake Wirtz, and my wife and our three homeschool children, we reside in Altamont Springs, where we've been Central Florida residents for over 9 years. I am a constitutional conservative, and the reason that I'm running is I'm running to be a missionary in the halls of government. This is an assignment from God, and I, quite frankly and quite honestly, am fed up with Republicans that have ran on conservative platforms and then turn their back on the values of our party. I am running to protect life and protect life from conception. Unlike some of my Republican colleagues, I support abolishing abortion. The same laws that protect you and I should protect our preborn neighbors, especially with what happened last week with Roe being overturned. But we never needed to give permission to the federal government for that to mandate child sacrifice in our state anyway. As a member of the Seminole County Human Trafficking Task Force, I want to make sure that we are doing all that we can to eradicate modern day slavery here in Florida. Human trafficking is an awful thing that's happening here in our state. And our Second Amendment rights have been infringed on. Under our Republican leadership, constitutional carry has been blocked the past 3 sessions. 25 other states have signed it into law, and we should not have to ask the government for a permission slip to carry our firearms to protect our family. I was a professional wrestler for 20 years. I worked for WWE, traveled the world, doing live television and production. And now I currently operate and manage a residential construction company in Seminole County. I work within the home improvement industry and the solar energy as well. So I want to make sure that our investment into rooftop solar is protected. I am honored and blessed to be here, and I look forward to fighting for the citizens of Seminole County.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Voters can get a sense of what kind of a lawmaker you are or would be based on what your priorities are. What's going to be the first bill? We'll start with Mr. Wirtz. First bill you would file and why?
Absolutely. The very first bill that I would file is the Equal Protection from Conception Act. As I alluded to here in my introduction, we have to protect the unborn child. God will never bless our state if we continue to allow babies to be murdered. A child is murdered every 7 minutes in the state of Florida. Right here within our district, just a mile away from my house, is the All Women's Health Clinic, where I've been out there frequently sharing the gospel and helping moms and dads choose life. Moms and dads that face an unexpected pregnancy should have the love of Jesus Christ, help, and resources, but they should not be able to have a free pass to murder their child. So we got to protect life from conception, and that's the first act that I will file.
You've actually, before we move on to Mr. Weingart and Mr. Smith, I just want to clarify where your position is. Not in the case of rape, not in the case of incest, any other conditions that you would oppose abortion?
Equal protection is equal protection. Again, the same laws that protect you and I from murder should protect our preborn neighbors.
All right. How about if a woman's life is in jeopardy?
So an ectopic pregnancy is actually not an abortion. That's a term that gets tossed around by the left. In a triage situation where the medical professional makes each and every single effort that they can to save all lives involved in the matter, then that's under the Hippocratic Oath. But an ectopic pregnancy is not an abortion. That's something that gets tossed around by the left.
All right. And finally, when it comes to any detection of abnormalities in the fetus, how about that?
Again, equal protection is equal protection.
All right. Mr. Smith and Mr. Weingart, in fairness, since I kind of went in a roundabout way here, we're going to tackle the abortion issue now, and then we'll get back to your bill priorities here. So, Mr. Smith, tell me, because this is in court as we're recording this debate, it's actually in court this week, the discussion about whether the 15-week abortion ban is allowed to go into law. And so do you fully support the measure as it is now, 15-week abortion ban, except in cases where the mother's life is in jeopardy or there's a fetal abnormality detected? Do you think we should take it a step further if you're sent back to Tallahassee?
Well, I voted for the 15-week bill because it ends late-term abortion in Florida, and it saves additional lives of the unborn. Remember, we've passed multiple bills. It was the 24-hour waiting period, which has cleared the courts, and then we went from a parental notification for a minor child seeking an abortion, from a parental notification to a parental consent. And then just this past legislative session in March, we passed the ending late term abortion. I voted for that and I support that. But I think with the new, with Roe v. Wade being overturned, I think it opens up Florida for some additional restrictions. And we have a pro-life legislature, a pro-life Republican legislature. And I'm honored to be endorsed by the Florida Pro-Life Coalition, and also just recently actually received a Florida Family Policy Council award for my stand on life. And we're going to take action in the 2023 legislative session.
Would you vote for an outright ban?
No, I would not. I
Okay.
think any woman has the right to defend her life in these type of things, because again, my colleague there mentioned an atopic pregnancy. That is one type of pregnancy. There are other issues involved with women's health where she might have to defend her own life. And I would never want to take that right. Because I tell you, I would never want to be that husband that would put it on his wife or be there in that decision-making process. What do you pick? Your unborn child or your wife? And I just think that's wrong. And I don't see that ever being law in Florida.
Okay, Mr. Weingart, your thoughts on this, and then we'll get back to the original question about the first bill that you and Mr. Smith would file.
Well, I would like to kind of lay out for voters exactly what the situation is in Florida, because I think the stuff on the news doesn't really necessarily go into depth about exactly where Florida stands and the background of what's going on in Florida with abortion, and the Florida state constitution and how the Supreme Court ruled previously. So the Florida Supreme Court back in 1989 extended Florida's privacy protections to abortion. Now, that's one of the things that's going to stand in the way of any further restrictions, perhaps, with Florida. I mean, it's already being used as a backing for opposition to the 15-week ban. It's important to understand the obstacles that we have in Florida, because it kind of mimics the same type of scenario we had on a federal level with Roe. We have the same sort of scenario in Florida with the Florida Supreme Court ruling from 1989. What that's going to take is either that case coming, or this case going back to this Florida Supreme Court and them ruling differently on it, which is not out of the question, because the Florida Supreme Court, the ruling they had in 1989, also relied heavily on Roe as part of its justification for making that ruling. And with Roe gone, there is room for further restrictions. I did support the 15-week ban when they passed it earlier this year in Tallahassee. I'm more in line with Mr. Smith with respect to protections for women's lives. I don't think that you should have to make it. If you have to make a decision about whether you're saving the life of the mother or the baby, I think that a mother has a right to defend her life as well. Insofar as paring it back, I wouldn't be opposed to pulling that 15-week ban back even further to protect life. Maybe.
All right, and we'll let us get back to you on that. Okay, so let's continue, Mr. Weingart, then. Not in the realm of abortion. If you are sent to Tallahassee, what is your biggest, most important priority? First bill you'd file, and why? And again, please try to keep it under a minute.
The first bill that I would file would be having to do with the interstate compact on the placement of children. Right now, if you look at children that get placed in the foster care system in the state of Florida, if we want to place them with a relative in another state, it's an entirely way too long, drawn out process where children are sitting idle, kind of in limbo, waiting to go spend time with a parent, or like a parent out of state, or a grandmother, or some other fictive kin. Restructuring that to update it and make it more conducive to the way that we do things nowadays virtually, I think would be entirely beneficial to kids, because when a kid enters the foster care system, they can't sit there not knowing what's happening tomorrow or the next day, or waiting to go spend time with grandma because they can't go home to mom because something has happened to where the child has been removed. That works in part on a federal level, so it'd have to be we'd have to bring in the federal, like our federal legislators as well. But that's something that really needs to be restructured in order to better serve children in the foster care system, because they've already been through enough.
All right, Mr. Wertz, or I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, your first bill and why?
Yeah, I think we need to build upon, in the 2023 session, what we have to build upon is the recent special session we had on property insurance in Florida. We have a crisis, and any one of your viewers that have opened their homeowners renewal policy, if they were even allowed to renew, probably got sticker shock. And we have an unstable market with insurance companies refusing to write policies in Florida, and folks that are just abandoning us. And not because we have hurricanes, it's litigation risk. So tort reform needs to be a part of a comprehensive insurance market reform to bring in greater competition. And I think we've got a lot of fraud that's going on, and everybody who's had one of these fly-by-night roofers come knock on their door and promise them a free roof. And that's contributing to the problem. In Florida last year, nationally, Florida replaced 8% of the roofs in our nation, but we were home to 78% of the litigation. And it's that litigation costs that are driving insurance companies out of Florida. And we got to stabilize the market. We have to build on this special session. So I'm going to be heavily involved with property insurance because that's impacting senior citizens in particular who are being squeezed financially. And I think they need our help.
I want to continue on this theme, and I want to want the other two to weigh in. But first, I want to go back at you, Mr. Smith. There was a special session. Things were supposed to get done. A lot of people who have assessed the special session is that it may be years, if at all, that any property owner will realize a savings in insurance, and there's no guarantee that the rates won't continue to go up and policies won't continue to get dropped because the reinsurance got helped as part of the session, but not a lot of other things. Isn't this something that the legislature has been dealing with year after year after year after year? Would you say that the session ultimately was a failure?
It absolutely was not a failure. We took steps to stabilize the market because the reinsurance, I mean, who knew that insurance companies have insurance? They do. It's called reinsurance. So we allocated $2 billion to be able to get, it's called a wrap account, and that allows those Florida-based insurance companies to get reinsurance at a lower rate, and they are required to pass that savings on to those homeowner policy. Now, it's true that it won't take an immediate effect because it goes into effect when you renew your insurance. So it's going to take a year of people every month, more and more people are going to turn over their policy, and it will help them. But what we're showing the global reinsurance and insurance market that Florida is taking action, and that's going to draw really the global insurance companies to want to do business in Florida, and not these companies that are refusing to write additional policies in Florida. So it was a good step, but we have more work to do.
Mr. Wertz, was it a success or a failure, the session?
Again, it just goes back to this old age tradition of the older generation of the Republican legislature up in Tallahassee of just incremental steps, whether it's incremental steps with abortion, incremental steps with the Second Amendment, and that's why there needs to be Republicans up there that are going to play offense with a sense of urgency. Look, I work within the construction industry. I know that these corrupt roofers, they're ruining my community as a business operator in the roofing industry. And there needs to be some definite hard oversight and when it comes to corrupt roofers. And, I'm not afraid to champion that cause, to be the conservative champion in regard to that. I am endorsed by the Florida Republican Assembly, the Republican Liberty Caucus, and the Republican National Hispanic Assembly of Florida. And I think that they put their endorsement on me, again, in respect to my colleague who is an incumbent, because they know that I'm going to be the one that's going to be the fighter up there to fight for we the people, and not for these corporate interests and these insurance companies.
Mr. Weingart, do you think legislators got enough done when they had the special session in May?
I think, no, I don't think they got enough done. I think part of the problem is their priority set. I think a lot of times you have legislators in Tallahassee who don't really understand the problems from the ground level. That's part of the reason that I would like to run, because I've been on the ground working with mental health and substance abuse with children that are victims of abuse, with people that are out on pretrial release, people in the judicial system. I've been a truck driver. I've worked in construction as well. I mean, all of these things, come together to give me a well-rounded, holistic view of how things work on the ground. When I used to work in construction, I worked for a paving company, and one of the issues that we would run into inevitably at this paving company was that as we're going through the plans, they would be incompatible with reality. And part of the problem was, at least as explained by my supervisor, was that the people that wrote these plans were doing it from Google Earth. They'd never driven the job before. So they didn't understand the facts on the ground and the realities of the ground. And I think having more people in Tallahassee that understand what's going on from a ground level that's dealing with these problems in our community can better serve the people of Florida.
All right. I want to move on to, I want to get a little more local, get into the district here. Of course, Seminole County, a lot of people live in Seminole County, beautiful part of the Central Florida area for not only homeowners, but also home renters, but it's becoming more expensive. You've got the challenges of increasing rent. You've got the challenges of median household price increases in the past couple of years since COVID that are going through the roof, literally, Mr. Wirtz. And then, of course, you've got, on the other hand, while those developers are knocking at the door and trying to get some more land to build some more houses, we've got a lot of natural areas that need to be preserved. Mr. Smith, how have you worked and how will you work to be able to balance out that which is developing and draws people to want to live there and that which we want to protect so that there's a reason to live there?
Right. Well, what makes Seminole County more challenging is because we have a voter passed referendum called the rural boundary. So because we have to protect the St. Johns River Basin as a recharge, the St. Johns River is essentially the kidneys of the Florida aquifer. And so that's very critical to protect. And there's no utilities out there. So everybody's on septic. So we have a rural boundary that prevents a lot of building out in that area, which forces more density towards I-4 and Altamont. So a lot of that is a redevelopment area. So I think there are some things that we have done in the legislature, which is allocated hundreds of millions of dollars for affordable housing, was the Sadowski Trust Fund that allows people to get first-time homeowners assistance for down payment, also offsets impact fees to builders, and those costs go on to homeowners. But Seminole County is unique because of that rural boundary, but we are doing things. And even this last session, I ran a bill that makes it's an affordable housing bill for seniors. It aligns the federal tax or Florida statute with the IRS tax code that makes it a little bit easier to build what we know is these 55 and over communities, but they can also be low income housing for seniors. And we're pushing that bill. I passed it in the House and it failed to get lifted up in the Senate and passed there. So I'm bringing that back as one of my bills. And it's kind of what they call a glitch bill. It's one thing we can do to make it easier to build affordable housing in Florida. And we're going to continue to pursue the little things and the big things like the Sadowski Trust Fund for affordable housing.
All right, Mr. Weingart, there's a lot to unpack there. Taking it back to the original question, exactly what do you do to try to balance both affordability and livability?
I think part of the problem, and one of my chief motivators in running, is separating out the distribution of power from the federal level all the way down to the individual in their county or city. Okay, and what I'm talking about is federalism versus localism. And I think the state legislature doesn't necessarily have the authority that they think they have to regulate and micromanage counties and cities. And I would prefer that less be done on a statewide level, because every time you go up a rung in the political system, you include more people with varying opinions that are different than the people that you live around. And if you want your community to be run how you want it to be run, you need to take care of issues at the most local level possible. If we start including like local laws or start trying to legislate local laws on a statewide level, we're compromising with people in Miami or other parts of South Florida or Tallahassee that don't necessarily have the same priorities that we do. I would like to see these types of issues remain local and state issues remain with the state. So the best solution to local issues is pushing the authority back to localities, the same way that the state legislature needs to pull authority back from the federal government and have it stand up with a stiff spine.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wertz, livability versus affordability, and or do you agree with Mr. Weingart that maybe the state on legislative level should just stay out of their business?
Well, look, there's a reason why I chose Seminole County as a place to raise my family, my wife and our three children. As a husband and a father, we can appreciate the natural destinations that we have here in Seminole County. We love going out to Lake Jessup. We love going out to the farms here. And some of the concerns that I've heard from constituents, especially over here towards Altamont and Maitland, we are just cutting down trees rampantly. And then we have coyotes that are coming into residential areas. So what I think the state needs to do is make sure that we are, limiting what trees we can cut down, protecting the aquifer, and just quite honestly, we need to vote like conservatives, make sure that we're conserving our land. And yes, the rural boundary absolutely must be protected. And that's one of the values that we really appreciate and put forth here in Seminole County. We want to make sure that we have that sustainability and affordability, not only for my children, but my children's children and our whole entire community.
All right. I want to talk about the Parkland school massacre, which led to the 2018 gun reform laws in Florida that was signed by then Governor Rick Scott. It included a red flag law that's been used more than 8,000 times, according to records kept by the Supreme Court, to remove firearms from someone deemed to be a harm to themselves or to someone else. It also raised the purchase age for long guns from 18 to 21. I want to start with Mr. Smith because I went back and I looked at the voting records for this. Were you absent that day? Because I don't see a vote for you on that day.
I wasn't elected then. I was elected in 2018. That vote was before I was in office.
Okay, got you. All right, good. And I'm glad you cleared that up. So what I want to know is, because there's been some discussion among Republicans in particular to roll back some of those provisions, and among a couple to add to those gun restrictions. I just want to know, where are you on that discussion, Mr. Smith?
Well, again, the Parkland bill, again, the Parkland shooting, tragic, happened on February 14th, 2017, before I was elected to office. So I didn't vote on that bill. There's been some talk about changing that. I did not agree with the rate lowering or raising the age on the long gun. That seemed to me kind of closing the barn door after the horse has gotten out. So that's really, it may come up. I suspect it will, to change that back. But what many people haven't seen, and we haven't seen it in Seminole County, and I'll explain why, is the school safety bill. Governor DeSantis, again, passed a bill just a couple weeks ago, or signed a bill that I voted for, that increased or implemented the Parkland Commission's results for school safety and school hardening. But I'll tell you, Seminole County has been setting the trend for 7 years. We've had sworn law enforcement agencies, 2 in each high school and 1 at our other schools. That's a cooperative agreement between the Seminole County Sheriff, Dennis Lima, who I'm proud to say has endorsed my reelection, and the school board. And I think Seminole County is a model for other counties to look at. We also have the RAVE program, which is that one-touch button for alert system inside of schools to lock down. And we're doing it right in Seminole County. And a lot of these other counties and school districts need to model off of Seminole County.
All right. So, and before we move on to Mr. Wertz, okay, so you would support a bill that would send the age to purchase a long gun back to 18? Is that what I would? You would? Okay. Yes. Mr. Wertz, your thoughts on the Parkland school safety bill, gun reform? Do you keep it the same? Do you add to it?
We absolutely abolish each and every single unconstitutional red flag law. It's a travesty to the Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed whatsoever. The Parkland tragedy was absolutely awful, but one of the things that came out of that was the implementation of the Guardian program. And that's something that unfortunately Seminole County has not adopted. Seminole County has actually had a shooting in a school this year. And so the Guardian program, for those that don't know, is, concerned citizens that go through 144 hours minimum of training would be armed and on campus at all times. A lot of it's retired police officers, retired veterans, those that are entrusted within our community. And unfortunately, Sheriff Dennis Lima, he does support the red flag gun laws, and he is against constitutional carry. So that's going to be an uphill battle. But again, 25 other states have signed into the law. The governor wants it on his desk, and I'm sure that we'll get it done in the 2023 legislative session. Absolutely, the age for long guns needs to be put back to 18. If a young man or woman is old enough to be drafted to defend our country, they're old enough to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And so, rest assured for those out there that are concerned that your Second Amendment rights have been trampled on, there is a coalition of grassroots patriots that are running up against incumbents who have opposed the Second Amendment.
All right, Mr. Weingart, your thoughts on the School Safety Act after the Parkland massacre? Do we keep it the same? Do we add to it? Do we strengthen the red flag law, or do we repeal any of it or all of it?
So regarding the raising the minimum age to buy a long gun, I don't think you're a partial adult at any point in time. Either you're a full adult or you're not. So if you want to have the age to purchase a long gun be 21, then the voting age is 21, and the age of majority is 21. I don't support it being 21. I would like to see it back at 18, but we don't get to pick and choose certain aspects of adulthood and place them at different times. I don't agree with that.
Right.
Respecting I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. If you can wrap up, we're running short on time here, and we're going to get to closing, but go ahead, finish your thought, Mr. Weingart.
Regarding the red flag laws, I think that's purely a state issue. They've been talking about it on a federal level. I don't agree that the federal government has much, if anything, to say about how states regulate guns within their borders. That goes back to the federalism versus localism aspect I was talking about earlier. We have red flag laws now. The question is whether to modify them, scrap them, or leave them the same. I would be in favor of, at a minimum, modifying them. So right now, you don't need to have any kind of underlying criminal offense to be picked for one of these red flag laws. It's my understanding that the majority of red flag laws in Florida do also have an underlying criminal violation of law that's associated with it. I would like to see that enshrined and made permanent so that you can't just willy-nilly take people's guns. There has to be some precedent for doing it that's proven in a court, and a judge finds probable cause to take those firearms away from you. That's associated with.
All right. All right. Thank you. We're going to have to let that be the last word. Mr. Wirtz, I'm going to give you a minute to close, and then I'll get to the other gentleman and we'll wrap this up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fox, and thank you to my Republican colleagues for taking part in this debate. Again, I am Drake Wirtz. I am the only constitutional conservative that's running to be your Republican representative for House District 38. I pledge to you that I will protect each and every single preborn life. I will fight for your Second Amendment rights and make sure that you have a guy on the inside in Tallahassee. Gone are the days when you look into the eyes of your legislators and you see the empty promises that they give you. There's a lot of politicians in Tallahassee, but I'm a patriot. The difference between a politician and a patriot is the politician is always looking to the next election, the next fundraiser, and the next big corporate donation. A patriot is looking after the next generation. And I'm that guy for District 38. God bless Seminole County. We're going to put Seminole first.
All right. Patrick Weingart, 1 minute, please.
Again, I'd like to thank Wes and you, Greg, and also the other candidates for participating in this. Going back to my opening when I was talking about my background and experience, I think it's important for voters to take into account where a candidate has been, what they've done, and how they've gained their experience. I think that my experience and my background has made me easily the most well-rounded candidate in this race. Please send me to Tallahassee to implement my background and my experience dealing on the ground with things like the opioid addiction, crime in Central Florida, child welfare, child abuse, and also other things like my Marine Corps experience and working in logistics and construction. All of these things come together to make a well-rounded candidate. That's what I look for when I'm looking at candidates, is someone that has the experience and the on-the-ground backing to make viable legislation in Tallahassee, and also understand their role in separating themselves from local and federal issues, pulling back authority from the federal government and pushing authority back to localities so that people don't need to be micromanaged and they can figure out for theirself how they want to be governed.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Weingart. Mr. Smith, 1 minute, please.
Well, I can tell you, after a 30-year career in the United States Marine Corps as a helicopter pilot and as a combat veteran, I know a little bit about patriotism. It's been an honor to serve the people of Central Florida up in Tallahassee. I'm honored also to have Governor DeSantis's endorsement and Sheriff Lima's endorsement and Attorney General Ashley Moody's endorsement, because Florida's on the right track. Crime is at a historic low. We've passed good crackdown legislation on illegal immigration. We've strengthened our voter integrity laws. We've passed pro-life bills that are saving the lives of the unborn today. Governor DeSantis and I have worked shoulder to shoulder on those, and we'll continue to do that in 2023 and take on some other challenges, especially the pocketbook issues that are hurting our seniors most of all. And I'm excited about what I out talking to constituents today. And when we're knocking on doors and we're hearing from people of the trials and tribulations that they're going through, and they are looking to me for leadership up in Tallahassee. And that's what I'm doing for the people of Seminole County. It's been an honor to do it for 4 more years. I hope to do it for 4 more.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We've been talking to the 3 Republican candidates in the Florida House District 38 race, which covers a portion of Seminole County. You've been watching WESH 2 News and WESH.com. Thank you for watching.